Have you ever noticed how some people start tearing up in the middle of an argument, even when they're trying so hard not to? Their voice shakes, their eyes fill, and suddenly they feel exposed. And the worst part isn't the tears, it's the shame that follows. The apology. The "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm crying." The quiet embarrassment of feeling too much in a world that rewards emotional control. But what if crying easily isn't weakness at all? What if it's something far deeper, something neurological, psychological, and rooted in survival? Because people who cry easily are not fragile. They are responsive. Their nervous system doesn't ignore emotional shifts, it reacts to them instantly. A slight change turns into tears, not because they lack strength, but because their emotional processing system moves fast and deep. Crying is not always sadness. Sometimes it's overload. Sometimes it's frustration with no safe outlet. Sometimes it's years of holding things together finally escaping through the only opening available. Many people who cry easily are actually the ones who hold the most inside. They think before they speak. They analyze their words. They try not to be dramatic, not to be difficult, not to be too sensitive. They often grew up in environments where emotions weren't handled gently. Maybe their feelings were dismissed. Maybe they were told they were overreacting. Maybe they learned early that showing emotion made things worse. So they adapted, they became careful, they became self-aware. They became hyper, attuned to other people's moods. And that hyper-attunement doesn't disappear in adulthood. It becomes a permanent setting. Their brain scans for tension automatically. Their body prepares for rejection before it happens. So when conflict appears, even small conflict, it doesn't just feel like disagreement, it feels like potential disconnection. And for someone wired to protect connection, that's powerful. The tears aren't about losing an argument, they're about the fear of losing safety. There's also a biological separating the reaction from the shame. You begin to see the pattern more clearly. Not as weakness, but as wiring. And wiring can be understood. Over time, when someone cries easily, it doesn't just stay a reaction, it becomes part of how they. Now you're not just hurt, you're misunderstood too. And for someone whose nervous system is wired around protecting connection, being misunderstood feels heavy. It reinforces the belief that emotional expression is unsafe. So they may start doubting their own reactions. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's not that serious. Maybe I should just stay quiet. But suppressing emotional expression doesn't make someone stronger. It just makes them quieter. And quiet doesn't always mean stable. Sometimes it means compressed. The irony is that many people who rarely cry there is very little performance. What you see is usually real. And in relationships, authenticity builds trust. You don't have to guess how they feel. They are transparent, sometimes more than they wish they were. But transparency is not weakness. It is openness. And openness is what allows. What if strength isn't about feeling less, but about understanding more? The truth is, emotional depth is not convenient. It doesn't look powerful in loud rooms. It doesn't dominate conversations. It doesn't intimidate anyone. Instead, it feels quietly, it absorbs, it processes, it reacts honestly. And honesty, especially emotional honesty, is uncomfortable in a world that performs composure. But depth carries something detachment never can: connection. The ability to truly connect with another human being requires emotional access. And the person who cries easily has never lacked access. If anything, they've had too much of it. The problem was never the tears. It was the meaning attached to them. It was the shame layered on top of a natural response. It was the belief that visible emotion equals fragility. But fragility breaks under pressure. And if you look closely, the person who cries easily hasn't broken. They've felt. They've stayed. They've continued to show up even when emotions were uncomfortable. That's not fragility. Once you see it this way, you can't unsee it.